the starting five of things that you need to know right now. Browns rookie Shedeur Sanders will get his first NFL start on Sunday at Las Vegas. With Dillon Gabriel still in concussion protocol, Sanders getting first-team reps in practice today. He was thrown into the fire last week and struggled, completing 4 of 16 passes for 47 yards and a pick. Browns reporter Daniel Oyefusi is on the scene. So how are the Browns handling Shedeur's preparation ahead of his first start?
Christine, the Browns practiced a little earlier today, and Coach Kevin Stefanski said that Sanders will get all of the first-team reps this week as he prepares for his first start. Over the past couple months, he's led the scout team offense and gotten post-practice reps with other young players, but he acknowledged that this week is a different beast. Here's what he had to say about preparing with a game plan tailored to his skill set.
Yeah, I'm truly excited for that, knowing that, I have a piece of offense and a say-so and how things fit my eye and place the players exactly where they need to be, seeing how they come in and out of routes, seeing the structure of the alignment, seeing they set, just having a feeling. Like I'm more of a feel type of person, so that's how I learn, that's how I do everything. I'm gonna just watch it, it's just gonna happen. No, like I gotta be out there, feel it, I gotta move around. It's like so many details that it takes for me, to feel my best and play my best.
Sanders was also reminded that he'll become the 42nd quarterback to start for the Browns since 1999. But he just smiled and said, "I feel like I'm the guy. I know I'm the guy. The game's got to speak."
Okay, if you guys do the math on that, by the way, that means 26 quarterbacks since 1999, which is absolutely crazy. Daniel, thank you so much. Ahead on SportsCenter, more on Shedeur Sanders making his first NFL start. So much reaction to the roller coaster journey for the former Heisman.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do, over the airwaves of SiriusXM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, every weekday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Number to call up as always is 888-MAD-DOG-6. That's 888-MAD-DOG-6. That's 888-623-3646. That's 888-623-3646. Got a jam-packed show coming your way. LeBron James returned to the basketball court last night for the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll touch on that. We'll touch on some other NBA stuff that's going on. Of course, we've got some National Football League stuff to talk about. Got Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss to talk about. Apparently, I've riled some people up in Oxford, Mississippi that are sitting there saying, how could I say such a thing? Because, oh my God, Lane Kiffin is thinking about leaving Oxford, Mississippi for Gainesville, Florida, the University of Florida, or LSU, Death Valley, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm not going to spend too much time leading with that particular topic. I'll touch on that as the show progresses. Let me say this much. For those who are taken aback by what I said, I don't give a damn. I'm just being real and straight up honest with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about folks in Mississippi. I'm sure there's great people there. I'm sure it's a great town. But the brothers ain't trying to go to Oxford, Mississippi. You Lane Kiffin, and you got an opportunity to be in Gainesville, Florida, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Death Valley for LSU. There's a reason when a private jet arrived, even though he didn't go, his family went to look at Gainesville and to look at Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's a little bit different than Oxford, Mississippi. That's all I'm going to say for now. I'll touch on this subject a little bit later on in the show. I just wanted to get that off my chest, looking at my producers and all of that other stuff. I know that wasn't what I was planning on leading with, but damn it, it was in my heart. And I wanted to get it off my chest, okay? The brothers in Oxford, Mississippi, it's not something that just rolls off the tongue. Certain things need to be said. That's one of them. Let me get into the story that I think is unavoidable, that we absolutely positively have to get into, and that is this. Shedeur Sanders being announced as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns this Sunday against the Raiders. We've waited a while for this. We know what this is about, and we're not going to hide from the subject one bit. Shedeur Sanders appeared in the game, got to the game in the third quarter last week against the Baltimore Ravens with a lead and did absolutely nothing. He was awful. It's undeniable. But I put some of the culpability on the shoulders of a Coach Kevin Stefanski as much as I do anybody else. And I know people have tried to push back on that. Get over it. Kevin Stefanski is a two-time NFL Coach of the Year. 2 times. 2020, 2023. This man knows what he is doing. He has an idea of what it takes to have people prepped to play football on the National Football League level. How in the hell does Shedeur Sanders look as bad as he looked this past weekend? Completing 25% of his passes, 4 of 16. Okay? For like 47 yards or whatever the hell it was. And the Cleveland Browns ultimately losing this game to the Baltimore Ravens. How is it that an offensive line never heard his cadence? How you calling the play? What your cadence and what your rhythm is? How does that happen? How does a quarterback on the National Football League level, who was a QB2, meaning the backup, for weeks, and never, ever, ever once hear or get the opportunity to do anything with any of the starters? Even if you're not a starter and you're a reserve and the QB1, the starter, is getting all the reps. Let's say, for example, there's 20 reps in practice. I was told the Bill Parcells, the Jimmy Johnsons of the world, and others would call for extra reps during practice just to make sure the backup was prepared in the event that they will have to enter the game. How is that done? How is that not done for Shedeur Sanders, a 5th-round pick out of Colorado, who'd been around, just got here, and you know that the person ahead of him is an undersized rookie trying to get the ball out of his hands every single play inside of 2 seconds just so he don't get himself hurt. How does the backup to that guy not get any reps? I don't care what anybody says. That's highly suspicious. That is highly suspicious. Now, we've heard Kevin Stefanski, the offensive coordinator as well, aren't necessarily high on Shedeur Sanders, whereas the GM, Andrew Berry, and maybe the owner, Haslam, might feel a little bit differently. So the Cleveland Browns are clearly a house divided. Because let me tell you something right now. Myles Garrett, I'm glad he got his money. But he should have stuck to his guns and insisted on getting traded. So they could have got the farm for him. Because Myles Garrett and his greatness is being wasted away. And he ain't the only one. Because Cleveland's defense is pretty damn good. The problem is that they can't score on anybody. They don't have an offense worth talking about. And now here comes Shedeur Sanders after a god-awful performance in his first game last week. Now gets an opportunity on a Wednesday, having been announced as the starter for this upcoming weekend's game against the Raiders. Considering how pathetic and moribund the Raiders are, how discombobulated they appear to be. I mean, if you go out there and you're Shedeur Sanders and you stick up the joint against the Las Vegas Raiders, nobody's going to have any faith in you moving forward. This is a big, big game for him. We're not talking about a guy that needs to go out there and throw for 400 yards. We're not talking about a quarterback that needs to go out there and play lights out. Just be respectable. Show that you belong. Be decent. Pick up a blitz. Throw a ball past 10 yards. Make sure you're able to convert. Do something along those lines. That's what we need to see from Shedeur Sanders. That's how important it is. And I'm here to tell you something right now. It's a lot on the line. Make no mistake about it. Because you got a whole bunch of people out there that ain't rooting for Shedeur Sanders. And let's call it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. There's reasons as to why that is. When he was at Colorado, completed 70% of his passes, throwing about 37 touchdowns, guiding them to a winning record, being coached by his daddy, primetime Deion Sanders. Along the way, there was a lot of resentment built. And we got to be honest about this. Primetime Deion Sanders is the greatest cornerback to have ever lived. Primetime Deion Sanders is arguably the greatest athlete who's ever lived. One can make that argument. You can think about Bo Jackson. In today's day and age, you can think about Shohei Ohtani. You can bring up the Barry Bonds as a hitter. You can bring up the LeBron Jameses of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world. You can bring up football players who are versatile enough. You can do all of that. You cannot definitively rule out that primetime Deion Sanders is arguably the greatest athlete to have ever lived. We got a lot of old school callers to SiriusXM Mad Dog Sports Radio. You know the number, 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. Go ahead, give me the names. Can you say it with finite, with definitiveness? Oh, this person, that person was a better athlete than primetime Deion Sanders. Are you sure you can do that? Remember, on the football field, he was a cornerback. He was also a punt returner. He was also a kickoff returner. Sometimes he played wide receiver. And then whether it was with the Yankees or the Atlanta Braves, he went and played baseball. You know he could fly. You see the speed that he had. Primetime Deion Sanders is unquestionably one of the greatest to have ever lived, if not the greatest. And he's got a swag and a bravado and everything else that came with it. And obviously that was transferred down to his son. We saw his son with the watch. You understand what I'm saying? Kept doing this all the time. You know, showing his watch and raising his arm up and down, especially when he was trolling competitions like that former quarterback from Colorado State. And then when he went into the draft, you heard his father bloviating about how there were certain places he just wasn't going to go, and NFL teams wasn't having that. They're like, who the hell you think you are? We ain't going for that kind of nonsense. You're not empowered here. Then you had the specter of, if you brought him on, meaning you drafted Shedeur Sanders, the likelihood is that his father wasn't going to be far behind as the imminent head coach in waiting and all of this other stuff. None of that helped him for the draft. I'm making the case, ladies and gentlemen, that was Shedeur Sanders drafted as a fifth rounder because he was a fifth round talent, or was he drafted as a fifth rounder because folks wanted to send a message that they weren't that high on him or the prospects of him and his daddy making noise? Me personally, Deion Sanders is my brother. Love him to death. And his swag has been earned. That's not the case with Shedeur. That's not the case with Shiloh. That's not the case with anybody else. And you got a lot of kids out there that want to sit up there and stick out their chest